Hello, everyone. I'm back again with the new chapter of science, that is chapter 2, nutrition in animals. Right. So let's start, begin with the chapter. In chapter 1, we had discussed about how the nutrition takes place in the case of plants. But as we all know, that plants can synthesize their own food, but animals, they cannot. So, in the case of animals, the nutrition of these animals is quite different, right? Now, we are also a part of our animals, like we are also part of, not actually part of animals, human beings, they all can come under another category of you can say organisms. Just like plants, they can synthesize their own food. We as human beings and animals, we can't synthesize on our own food. Rather, animals, you can say, they are dependent on plants for their food requirements, right? So this animal nutrition, basically it includes what? What it includes? It includes your nutrient requirement, then mode of intake, of food, and its utilization in the body. This includes this thing. Fine. Now, the basic process is that these animals, they take in the complex substances, whatever is the mode of nutrition, right? In the mode of nutrition, the complex substances, they are broken down into the simpler ones. This is the basically idea behind what is the type of nutrition which is going on. Now there are different ways of taking in the food. Every organism, every animal, or it's a human being, they have different modes. Like bees and hummingbirds, they suck the nectar from the flower to make their honey, right? Similarly, infants or humans, or you can say baby animals, they are dependent on their mother's milk, right? Similarly, some are there like snakes, they simply just swallow their food item. So different animals, they have different modes of nutrition. Now, in order to understand, we in this chapter, we will be discussing first is a very complex body, that is the human body, right? Now let's come to that. Now if we look at the human body here, in this we have different parts. The human body is basically, it is called as the digestive system, right? Now we have mouth, right? Now basically this the basic intake of the food, it takes place from the mouth. Now, in the case of mouth, we have the salivary glands. You know, every time we chew the food, right? Every time we chew the food, there is some watery material which is coming inside our mouth, and that is basically your salivary glands. Now, before going further, let me just talk of in the case of mouth, right? We have different types of teeth. Right? The very first process is when the food is taken in, inside the mouth, the salivary glands, they are present, which basically moistens the food and lubricates it, and the enzyme which is present over here is amylase, which helps in digesting the carbohydrates whatever we are eating. We had done in the previous chapter that our food is basically made up of 5 components, 5 nutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, then you have vitamins and minerals, right? And you have fats. right? So our food is basically and there is some water also, right? Our food is basically made up of different type of nutrients. So the function of the salivary glands is to moisten and lubricate the food, and the enzyme amylase, which is present inside our mouth, it helps to digest the carbohydrates, right? Now once the teeth are there in the mouth, which helps in, now there are different types of teeth which are present, right? Now there are different types of teeth. One are your molars, then premolars, and then you have canines, canine, and then you have incisors, right? Now there, all these teeth, they have different functions, right? Now more, let me just go to that. Yes, over here. Now if you look at the different types of teeth, they are canines, molars, premolars, and your incisors. Now, what is the functions of the canines? Now, first of all, these are your incisors, the very first four teeth which are in front, like these flats one. These are called as your incisors. They are sharp and blade-like for cutting the food. For example, you use them for biting an apple. Okay, these are in your lower jaw. Then below after these four teeth, right, then you have the premolars. Like if we talk of the lower jaw, you have four teeth, then you have premolars. Now the functions of these premolars, right, is that you use for tearing and grinding of the food. After the premolars, you have three molars, right? These are basically broad and flat, and they are on the back. So they are basically for grinding up the food. Like this, you grind the food. Okay, so you can use them for grinding your food items. Then canines, right, which are present over here on the top, two pointed ones, right? They are basically used for tearing up the, very rough, very hard or rough surfaces, like packets you tear off the meat. So you tear off with these, right? So once the food is being, one second. Now once the food, it is being taken into this mouth, the mouth, these there are basically salivary amylase is there, and teeth are there, and different teeth, they have different functions to perform. So they do up their function, and the food is properly digested. Then when the food is digested, it travels from the, it directs the food into stomach. Then there is below is pharynx. Its function is to direct the food into the stomach and prevent choking from here. After pharynx, then it reaches and starts going into your esophagus, right? It starts going into your esophagus. Next is from here, the food down to the mouth to the stomach is basically is done with the help of the esophagus, right? Now this process of taking up the food, okay, into the body is basically is called as your ingestion. Okay, this process of taking up the food inside your body is called as your ingestion, right? Now once the food is entered into the stomach, the very first component, or you can say the very first part of the body where the food enters, that is your stomach, right? Now stomach, it, you can see it is just like a rajma seed. Now stomach, it is constantly secreting gastric juices and hydrochloric acid. It has a lining. Okay, it has a lining. This lining is basically called as what? Mucus, right? It has a lining, and the function, and this is stomach is continuously secreting gastric juices and hydrochloric acid. Now what is the functions of these? These basically, these activates the enzymes, right? Then they kills the bacteria, if any bacteria is there in your food. Okay, then it stores and churns down the food. Fine. And the main thing happens over here is, here the proteins, they are digested. Proteins are broken down. Right now, once this, then the largest enzyme, this is the largest, then there is just below this stomach, next to the stomach, we have liver. Liver is the largest organ inside our body, and this is continuously secreting bile juice. Now what is the function of this bile juice is, it is basically helps to break down all the fats. Okay, it helps to break down all the fats whatever you are eating. Okay, so here the salivary glands function was to digest the carbohydrates. Okay, this is doing with the proteins and this is doing with the fats. Okay, now and get rid all the waste and the changes food into energy and clears the alcohol, medicines and poisons from the blood. So liver is very important part of your body, and you have to take care part of that, because it is doing the maximum work. You know, it stores the vitamins and the iron whichever you are eating. Then it destroys all your old blood cells which are present, right? So you can see how liver is important in our body. So it is very important that your liver should be very healthy, because it is doing most of the things. Now next to this liver, you have a gallbladder, which is very small. It is stores the bile. Its basic function is that whatever bile juice the liver is making, it keeps on storing them, and finally then implies it to the small intestine, and then it is connected to the small intestine and help this stones can form within. Ab here jo hai, in this gallbladder, okay, gallbladder is very prone to the formation of the stones, right? Then just below your stomach you have pancreas. Now it is a gland that make enzymes for the digestion, right? And it also is secretes, you know, insulin. Basically it is responsible it is basically secretes insulin and helps in controlling your sugar levels. It helps it, right? Then just below the pancreas, now from here, after so much of digestion, like proteins are digested, insulin, sugars and all this, finally the food enters into your small intestine. Now all the digested proteins, fats and carbohydrates, now they are present in your small intestine, which is this. Okay, now the surface of the small intestine, it is covered with the villi. Small blood cells like projections are there, finger like projections are there, which are basically called as villi, and they are basically responsible for absorption of the food. Like all the food is being absorbed by the blood, and from that blood it is you know, transported to the whole part of the body, right? Then after this, once the food, whatever food is required by our body, it is all digested over here, and whatever is the leftover food is there, it is being thrown and given out to the large intestine. Now what is the function of the large intestine? It is also called as colon. Okay, now the function of the large intestine is it absorbs all the water and the electrolytes. Okay, and whatever is left and thrown, it is the waste product, the solid waste product, it is thrown out in the through the, you know, through the rectum, right, and through the appendix, right? And there is some pouch, this is called as what? Appendix to the small intestine. It is a pouch which is attached to the first part, and till now, you know, nobody knows its function, like what is its function, but there is some pouch which is being attached to the small large intestine. And then there are anus and rectum, and the waste materials, they are thrown out from the body. So you can imagine how complex our digestive system is, and Complex is one thing. You can analyze that how much work they are continuously doing so as to digest our food, right? So that is why it is very necessary that whatever food we are eating, we should always mind our eating habits, because according to that only our body parts will also have to work like that, right? Then after this, the small intestine is there, right? And you can say the small intestine, and this process which I told you, in which the waste material is thrown out from the body, it is called as what? Digestion. So you have two processes: ingestion, the process by which food is taken inside our body, and egestion is the waste products which are thrown out from our body. That is basically called as what? Egestion, right? So this is about your human body. Now, next in this chapter, what we have is, we have other things also, like we have in the digestive system in the case of grass eating animals, right? That is your herbivores. Okay, now actually grasshopper, like grass eating, like your cows and buffaloes, right? They keep on continuously, they are chewing the food. You must have seen the cows and the buffaloes. They're continuously chewing up the food like anything, right? And they store the food in the part of a stomach. Obviously the part is same, but they store the food in the part of a stomach which is called as what? Rumen. Rumen. Now when the rumen is there, the and some partially digested food which is stored in the gut, that is basically is called as what? Gut, right? Now process is same, digestion, ingestion is there, yeah, right? Then now, but later the cud, it returns to their mouth in the form of small lumps, and that the animals, they are continuously, they are chewing up that food, and that process is basically is called as what? Your rumination. Whatever is the left food, that basically again goes into the mouth, and they are continuously chewing it. Now we all know that grass is very much, rich in cellulose, and cellulose, you can say, it is a part of a carbohydrate, right? So there are a lot of bacteria which is present, so it helps in the, bacteria are present, and which again helps in the digestion of the cellulose, right? So this is about the animals digestion. Rest all part is the same. It goes to the small intestine, then it goes to the large intestine. Small intestine, the function is again same. The small intestine, the Willis projections are there, it is digested in the form of blood, and whatever leftover food is there, it is thrown out from the you can say from the large intestine, right? So the last part of this chapter is in digestion in the case of amoeba. Now we all know that amoeba, it is a unicellular microorganism, right? It is a microscopic single-celled organism which is basically formed in the pond water. We draw the structure of this. It is a single-celled organism which is called in the this. Okay. Now it basically amoeba ingests its food with the help of a false peat, which is basically called episodia, and the food is digested in the food vacuole. Okay, it has basically finger-like projections, which are false finger-like projection. It pushes out more finger-like projection, which are basically called as episodia, or the false feed for the movement and the capture of the food. Once the food is being captured, okay, then there is one vacuole is formed over here. Food vacuole is formed, and then this it is in the amoeba feeds on this, and the food is trapped in the food vacuole, and the digestive juices, they are secreted in the food vacuole, and they act on the food and break down the food complex substances into the similar substances, and the absorbed food which is taken over here, it is again used for its growth, for the maintenance of the body. Okay, now the basic process of the digestion of the food and the release of the energy is same in case of all the animals, right? Only can say the mode of ingestion is different. Like in the case of humans, we have studied three organisms in this chapter: humans, animals, and your amoeba, right? Humans, they are multi-celled, and animals, they are also multi-celled, whereas amoeba is a single cell. But the main process of getting breaking up of the food and getting up the energy is same, only the ingestion process is different, right? So I guess you are clear with this chapter. If you have any doubt, do consult me on my YouTube channel, Genius Ginny. If you have any comments, you can just drop in down over there, and do like my channel, do subscribe my channel. And if you have any queries, do always feel free. Daily at 1 p.m. I come online live for English grammar quiz also. So that's all for today. Bye bye.